Hey tankers, and welcome back to World of Tanks with PR154, where today we are following Solemn of the Vicious Hawks clan in the premium tier 6 German heavy tank Tiger 131. Now this is a in-game representation of the Tiger 131 that is being held at the Tank Museum in Bovington, England, and I think they've done quite a brilliant job of this, and it's really nice that you have these actual historical vehicles that are put into the game, like not just the make and model but down to the physical tank itself. This one was captured in Tunisia in 1943. It was the first Tiger to fall into Allied hands and really gave the Allies an understanding of what this tank was all about. Given it at the time, it had completely outclassed anything that the Allies happened to have. Now, unfortunately, World of Tanks doesn't work that way. World of Tanks works on a tech tree based on technological progression rather than chronological progression, which is probably just as well, considering that if we ran on a chronological scale, you'd probably be forced to go up against Tiger 1s in British and American vehicles of tiers 3 and 4. So for the purposes of World of Tanks, you then have to park the phenomenal reputation of this vehicle and really look to, well, what are the metrics that are in the game. And what you've got here is 100mm of armour on both the turret facing and the hull, which is actually not a lot at tier 6. The armour layout itself is also quite awkward as well. It's very difficult to bring your gun online without exposing some sort of penable facing. So you may even find yourself having to trade down on your 1060 hit points, which is actually not a bad reserve of hit points for tier 6, in order to have effect on the enemy. And this might be putting yourself in situations where you're getting penetrated for 150 damage, but you're able to put 220 out instead. And that's what the 88mm gun on this vehicle does, 220 hit points. It's a bit less than what you see with the tier 7 88s, it's certainly a lot less than what you have on Tiger 1, which pushes out 280 hit points with an 88mm gun. Unfortunately, in that respect, this gun tends not to live up to the hype. It's not the accurate 3-kilometer killer that the history books would suggest. Base dispersion here is 0.36 meters per 100 meters. While the dynamic dispersion is serviceable, it still leaves a lot to be desired. Now let's allow this enemy Tiger 131 to highlight the real flaw in the armor of Tiger 131 and Tiger 1 generally. As he comes around the corner, look at all that upper frontal plate that was sticking up around the top. But could you see Tiger 131's gun? No, you couldn't. It was still stuck behind the rock. So you're in this impossible situation where you're poking to engage, the enemy can see you, the enemy can penetrate you, but you can't bring your gun online yet. Fortunately, Solemn is demonstrating fantastic armor awareness, which the same can't be said for their opponent downrange. So it's something you have to be super careful of when you're playing Tiger 131. Now, while he has eaten a shell, ultimately it is the other Tiger 131 that has come off second best. Solemn now pushes ahead. They're supported by M4A1, and they've got a bead on a Leopard who seems to be looking the other way. M4A1 taking the kill. So as Solemn and company end up exerting control over the low ground, there's still a very fierce tussle going on the top side. We see a lot of different vehicles that are poking out from around their extreme corners, SU-100Y being a rather formidable gun to have downrange. Turning to the mid, we've got AMX ELC BIS trying to spot out a few enemy vehicles, but it's taken a shot and has been spotted for their troubles by T25-on-2, with T67 sending them back to the garage. Now the enemy team hasn't completely given up on the low ground. We can see A43 continuing to contest, and it looks like it's being supported by the Super Hellcat as well. Fortunately, Solemn is making good use of environmental cover, including some of that artificially created cover, specifically the enemy Tiger 131 that went down earlier. Now you can see Solemn is making due care to avoid exposing themselves to more than one vehicle at a time. In this case, they've pulled back, and now they're only engaging Super Hellcat, and for their troubles, they've sent it back to the garage for kill number 2. This just leaves A43 pointing guns in them at this point. Again, a shot to the rear. Check on the SU-100Y. Doesn't look like it was pointing the gun in their direction. A43 now looking quite one-shottable, so really eroding enemy resistance in this particular corner, and back to the garage it goes for kill number 3. Now this particular battle is a tale of two Tigers. In fact, the Tiger 1 on the friendly team was able to push through the northern flank absolutely unopposed. No one saw them, no one spotted them, and now they're into the enemy flank. It's now spitting fire into the enemy second line, with SU-100Y taking the first bullet. Panzer IV-H still firing away, so Tiger 1 takes aim. That's a massive hit. It's left it on a one-shottable position. Now it's moving, it's trying to get away, but a little bit too little, too late, and down it goes for Tiger 1's kill number 2. So this is bound to provide a bit of reprieve for Solemn, with the enemy second line having been dealt with. So that means that with a bit more confidence, they should be able to start climbing this ridge and dealing more thoroughly with the front line. A bit of an intimidating front line here. We've got KV3, we've got KV2, KV collection going on there, but he's getting the shots in and following up in fairly short order. A slight caveat here, there is some rather liberal application of the premium pay PCR that penetrates for 194mm. That's up from the 145 that you get with the standard armament. But we do need to consider Solemn's position. They are trying to fight KV turrets from a hull down position, so that's pretty well the first thing that's going to be poking up. See, the KV3 is absolutely no issue sending the enemy KV1S back to the garage, so it's going to be treated with a reasonable degree of respect. The Stura Mill has pushed up to engage KV3. Now it's still got the stubby 105mm gun, but they seem to have the desired effect on the KV3. Solemn pushes up to follow up on its success. We've got a one-shottable Cheeto back to the garage. It goes for kill number 4, and now lining up KV2 for kill number 5. He's just having an absolutely phenomenal game here. VK2801-105 for kill number 6. That's a Reaper badge right there. 3 kills from 3 shots. And that's without mentioning the Top Gun medal for the 6 kills in total. Now we can see that Wolverine is engaging Breton Panther in the low ground, but it's having a bit of trouble in that there's quite a few guns pointed at it from the front. But Tiger 1 has transited to point guns at it from the rear, and back to the garage it goes. Now I've got a little bit of kill streak madness. T67 rounding on Sturmgeschütz 3G before pointing towards Breton Panther. Now it's two-shottable, so that lower tiered vehicle says, "I will have you." And it does eat a couple of shots here, but it ultimately emerges the victor from this fight. Tiger 1 now starts to make its move into the enemy team. It's seeing Churchill 1 from the back. It's leaving it in a rather one-shottable condition. T67 also making its escape to the right as Churchill 1 goes down. But the Tiger 1 is far too quick there. It stops, it aims, it fires, and T67 goes back to the garage once again. We have a enemy T25 on 2 now playing from the lower ground. So Tiger 1 is going to have to work for this, but they're probably pretty confident at this point in time that they can outtrade a one-shottable T25 on 2. Now the opening shots is resulting in a bit of mutual bouncy. Even artillery not being able to crack the T25 on 2, but a follow-up shot from Tiger 1 seals the deal. And quite sensibly now, Solemn has issued a platoon request to the friendly Tiger 1. They've both scored at least 3 kills each, so this is going to be a Brothers in Arms medal for them. Quite an epic one at that, considering there's 6 kills apiece. Like, that's doubling the requirement of a Brothers in Arms medal. Now, at this point in time, there is only the one enemy SPG left, scores 14-7. It's just this poor little M41 HMC left on the enemy team. But they're going to have to dig it out of the back. Now, who is going to find it? Is it going to be the Tier 5 medium tank, which arguably has better mobility and vision? Is it going to be the Tiger 1 that's already claimed 6 kills and still has an amazing reserve of hit points available to it? Or is it going to be Solemn, sitting from the back, waiting patiently, ready to bring gun online as soon as the little red box is spotted? M4A1 is scouting out the lower ground. That's often where self-propelled guns might retreat to. Tiger 1 is now following the corners of the map along, heading towards the A-line. We have Hellcat also joining the search party. So a lot of eyes attempting to make light work, finding the last SPG. And there it's spotted, and it doesn't look like Solemn has a very good bead on it. Now they are attempting to break down some of the log barriers, but it's Tiger 1 that appears to be first on scene, sending it back to the garage for kill number 7 and the final of the game. So that's a win for Solemn in the premium tier 6 German heavy tank Tiger 131. Let's take a look at those results. So a well-deserved Ace Mastery badge there for Solemn of the Vicious Hawks clan in the premium tier 6 German heavy tank Tiger 131. That places them in the top 1% of tankers in this vehicle in the preceding week. There's an absolutely fantastic collection of Battle Heroes medals here. There was, of course, Brothers in Arms that we talked about for being in a battlefield platoon with another tanker that had done at least 3 kills, but they upgraded that. They ended up getting the Crucial Contribution epic medal. So that's awarded to a platoon. This has destroyed at least 12 enemy vehicles in one battle. Fantastic medal to get, very well deserved for both Solemn and their partner in the Tiger 1. They've also picked up the High Caliber medal for accounting for at least 20% of the total hit point pool of enemy vehicles, and the Top Gun medal for taking at least 6 heads throughout that game. They've also picked up the Duelist medal for destroying at least 2 enemy vehicles that had caused damage to them in turn. Now, having a look to the team scores, this was a fantastic top on experience placement here by Solemn, nearly doubling the experience take of the Tiger 1. However, but the contribution made to that battle by Tiger 1 should not be understated. They were, after all, single-handedly responsible for tearing up the enemy's backline and thus bringing their front line into complete disarray. Notable mention on the enemy team to KV3, who was playing rather tenaciously from the front line but ended up being brought low by the Stura Mill. The T67 also doing quite well from bottom tiered, taking 3 kills in this game. And to the detailed report, this was quite an expensive battle. As we talked about earlier, there was quite a high expenditure of premium ammunition over the course of this game. Fortunately, there was a 15,000 credit personal missions payout, and that has blunted what would otherwise be a 25,000 credit bill for this game. But a fantastic result nonetheless for Solemn of the Vicious Hawks clan, in spite of giving that 2 key a good old dab. And if you've got a replay that you'd like to see featured in the World of Tanks with PR154, we are taking your replays for featuring on our Saturday Twitch stream. And if you're around, we'll also get you in live on channel to talk through what was going through your mind and down your barrel. If that's something you'd like to be a part of, then please submit your replays over our Discord, and that link is in the description below. Some of those interviews were even cutting, editing, and repurposing for YouTube content as well. So you might have seen some of those replays coming up from time to time interspersed between the more traditional talking head sort of replay reviews that we also do. In the meantime, happy tanking, and take care out there.